Hello, it's Colette from the Sacred Rose Temple. I've been sat with the idea of the MAGA, the perimenopausal woman who is at the stage before crondom, and really, truly, deeply feeling her now as I start at the age of 47. Some subtle changes in my body and the lightening of my bleed. And I've shared this in the group before that there's this space in me where the bleed's been lightening and I've been really kind of mourning that bleed and the transition into MAGA. But I'm really beginning to honor this transition now in a different way. And I believe it's because I have kind of reframed the whole movement from mother into the MAGA and asked myself, what is it I'm afraid of? Is it the anti-aging thing? Is it the wrinkles? Is it the graying of my hair? Is it the way my body is holding weight differently? What are those things? So I actually made a point of writing them all down and then address the trigger points for each and every one of them and to face the shadows. So for me, the big one was the shadow of not being, youthfully beautiful, how we all believe, we do feel more beautiful when we're young because there is such a huge impression in the collective that we need to look young to be able to be of any worth. And there's a huge industry based around that, and one that I have kind of been against as a woman for many years now. And so, if that was my biggest battle, then it wasn't a battle at all for me because that whole industry is pretty dark and corrupt. And I wanted to sever any ties that I've had with that industry or with the impressions and imprints. And obviously, that's still work in motion at the moment. And so, the deciding to let go of my dark hair that I had in my youth and not be one of those women with dark hair holding on with the white roots. I mean, that's one of my biggest fears too, is to be that kind of person still squeezing the life out of youth when clearly it's not there anymore. So I've gone through a process of lightening so that I can embrace the grey and allow it to come through in a much easier way. And that was kind of made me feel really good actually. I came back from the hairdressers feeling pretty hot and sexy with this new hair. And then I had a barrage of kind of like admiration happen when I was out and about. And I don't believe it was anything to do with the way I looked at all, but to do with the way I felt. My kind of feminine prowess came out in a different way. And so I grabbed hold of that. I was saying, okay, so who are you and what do you want? And this prowess in me, this new feeling is about being this MAGA who is actually pretty amazing. I've gone through lots of trials and tribulations in my life. I've been very weak with men in my past, very weak in different situations. And I believe that as all of those situations have come about, I've become a much stronger person. And I hold a lot of knowledge now. The MAGA holds knowledge. She's learned lessons from her lifetime. And so I want to really begin to breathe that knowledge. And that's asked me to step up in big ways. The knowledge wants to come through my teaching, and that was, you know, a big thing this last couple of months as all this began to drop in and I was asked to teach for more mature bodies of work and bigger schools that I have admired in the past. And I'm just feeling this new place in me that is feeling deeply empowered actually, and feeling that I've got this sovereign strength from the knowledge and from the lessons I've learned, and the lines on my face and the graying of my hair and the change in my body is symbolic of a woman who's made a journey. And so I really wanted to share this with you as women start to go crazy out there about the menopause and what it brings. I am actually having very mild symptoms, and I believe that's due to the womb work that I've been doing for many, many years. There are hormonal changes. I'm a lot shorter in my temperament, but I believe that that isn't something I need to be afraid of. I have just a shorter tolerance, and I'm much more likely to say now what I mean than I ever did before. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I am not frightened of my anger. I am not frightened of my rage. I am not frightened about sharing my opinions anymore. But I am aware that there's shadow sometimes in that this shortening can create shadow behavior. And so I work with my shadow weekly with a teacher. So I know that kind of is under context for me and being reflected. And so, yeah, deep changes. And I wanted to just bring the MAGA into this group to you all to see if you can really connect to this complex within your own self. If you're at a perimenopausal stage, I really urge you to write down all the things that you're afraid of in the transition. I'd like to offer you to be able to meet those, where have they come from, and why are there any conditionings in those, and how can you overcome them? And also just facing any kind of energy that you're embroiled in, that is, the menopause is bad, it has its toll on us, it does this, I need to have hot sweats, and I need to have this and this and this. Just think about all of those things that have been implanted into our brains as women, that the perimenopausal phase is meant to be horrific and therefore has a huge impact on our rationale. I also am using herbs. I'm using Vitex, which I found absolutely amazing for balancing hormones. And I take, I can't remember the dosage, but I'll share that in the group if anyone's interested. But I take that every morning and I found it really beneficial. I was taking yellow maca, but that was too high a dose for me and really made me quite rampant and wanting to make love all the time, much to my partner's delight. But my breasts really were quite swollen, and I just felt more of a hormonal flux. So I think it's about getting herbs that allow the fall of hormones to gently subside rather than to have a big great fall and depletion. I think that's what affects us. But I really am not one for HRT, because I don't believe that we need to replace the hormones that our natural being and state is trying to reduce. And if there's big spikes in those hormones, then our own personal care is about thinking about what we're eating. We need to be more really nurturing as we go through this phase with our food to regulate hormones. Are we taking movement and exercise? And are we doing things like meditation to help us be in a more peaceful state? How are we regulating? Those kinds of questions really help to relate to why there might be big hormonal peaks in a woman. So all of this is deeply entrenched in the womb work. And I'm thinking in the future of doing some kind of work on this, maybe some Zooms, maybe some just calls for MAGAs to share our experiences and also to be able to come to some solutions really for the things that might be happening in this phase, and to understand how the psyche affects that, how our dietary requirements, change, and how our life changes in and what it's asking for. But I think finally, I really, really believe in ritual and ceremony, and we need to be congratulatory as we enter different phases to say we made it. I think in this day and age, we're really lucky if we make it into perimenopausal, stage. Many women don't. And in the past, this wasn't, really a space many women got to in the old days. So it's a space to be celebratory of this transition and to mark that with a ritual or a ceremony. So asking yourself if you were to mark yourself in the transition. And I posted a image today of the different stages of a woman's life, how you could mark this as a ceremonial, thing to celebrate. So I'm going to leave it there for now, but just wanted to pop in and share this musing with you. Sending you all love.